Thank you everybody, and thank you as always to our viewing audience at home. Welcome to another edition of the IB Film Show. I, as always, am your host, Mr. Shotwell, and joining me in the studio today to present their newest film, Looking Back While Moving Forward, is ABC's Productions, and I have all four members of the crew immediately to my left here, beginning right to my left side with the picture's editor, Alyson Paulino. Immediately next to Alyson, to her left, is the picture's cinematographer, Claire Bohan. Next to Claire, going down the line, is the picture's director, Cecelia Martin. And at the end of the table next to Cecelia is the picture's sound designer, Bella Harrison. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
It's good to see you all today. Welcome back. So before we check out the film, as always, having you guys here, I figured we'd take the opportunity, or I'd take the opportunity to give you guys a chance to talk a little bit about your respective roles on the film and reflect a little on the filmmaking so we can get some insights into it before we watch it. Starting as always with immediately to my left, Alyson, the picture's editor. And Alyson, I have a bit of a general question for you here, which is just how did you approach the editing process in order to convey the film's underlying themes?
So basically what I wanted to do is that I wanted to convey the film's theme using the same simplicity that was presented in Makoto's Honesty.
Christopher Makoto.
Yeah.
I know that you guys were pretty heavily inspired by his filmmaking before you went into this. Cool. Can you talk a little bit about maybe like what you think some of these themes or messages in the film are, or what they were like intended to be?
So the film's main theme was about like the shared human experience and condition, and basically how everyone is connected, although like we're all unique and have our own unique experiences.
Great, cool. And as the editor, I think a lot of the responsibility for building that out of all the footage kind of ended up falling on your shoulders.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Speaking of the footage, Claire, the cinematographer for this project. Claire, Alyson mentioned simplicity as sort of a guiding principle that I think all of you guys were sort of attached to before you dove into the production of the film. But can you talk a little bit from the cinematographer's perspective about why you decided to go with a simplistic, minimalist approach to this film, and were there any specific inspirations for your decision to do that?
We decided to go with a simplistic form of cinematography because we really wanted the main focus to be on the interview responses, and I think by having like visuals that complement the interviews really helped to focus on the interviews. And we were inspired by a lot of, like Alyson said, Christopher Makoto's films and former IB film students.
Oh yeah, that's right. You guys had seen some other IB film short films as inspiration for this as well. Cool. I love that idea. And actually, some of those films that we've seen in the past that took a similar style were kind of guided by not distracting from or taking away from the audio, which was so important to your guys' piece. That's cool. Terrific. Cecelia, director of the picture. And I know that one of the ways that you were sort of really intimately involved in the development was coming up with, speaking of the audio and the interviews, the actual interview questions that you guys wanted to build this film around. So can you talk about them a little bit, and specifically about the process of development of what eventually became the interview questions we hear in the film?
Yeah, so we knew we wanted to create a documentary, like narrative piece, after watching the South Side and on Long Island.
But we wanted, year, right?
Yeah, but we wanted to do something that was more like personal and sentimental. So our first idea came from the idea of our home videos, and then that kind of sparked the interest of doing something from like a question for the past, the present, and the future, and yeah, that really led us to developing the questions.
Cool. I know too that the specific moment you guys are in right now had something to do with the idea too, like the transition from high school to college. Did that play a role in this idea at all? Or?
Yeah, that did. Because we're kind of embarking on like a new chapter in our lives. So we wanted to incorporate our childhood, the time period right now, but also ask for advice for the future from our parents.
Great. And I think from that idea comes the very title of the film itself, right? Looking back while moving forward. Bella, sound designer for the picture, and in addition to some of the more subtle layers of sound design and the actual recording of the audio, you contributed a lot to the film in the form of creation of the music, or what would eventually become the music in the film. So what were your thoughts before you went into it about how you wanted the music to sound for this film? And do you think, or how do you think it contributes to the overall message and tone of the film?
Yes, so the interviews were like the main root of our film, and I didn't want the music to like be overbearing or distract like the audience from what our parents were actually saying. So I wanted to go with like a lighthearted, sentimental, nostalgic tone to the song.
It's interesting how so many of you not only took this minimalist approach, but also really kind of shared this coherent, strategic idea about why to like make this about the interviews and the interviewees and the questions. Okay, so before we check it out, this will be the last film that each one of you contributes to the library of IB films, I guess. And in the spirit of that moment, I figured I'd ask each one of you, what sort of filmmaker would you consider yourself to be at this moment in your filmmaking career, for lack of a better way of putting it? And how do you think that is reflected in the film we're about to watch?
I feel like I'm a versatile filmmaker because I feel like we've had like a lot of different like tasks in like the past, and I feel like I've been able to adapt to like every style that we've been asked to like achieve.
It's one of the things I think this course, frustratingly or not, challenges you guys to do, is work in a lot of different settings.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I would say I'm a more like simplistic and minimalistic style of film because I tend to lean that way when we have the freedom to be creative and choose our own path.
I think very much reflected in the film we're about to watch. That's cool.
I would consider myself to be a symbolic filmmaker. I feel like a lot of my pieces have either like symbolic metaphors or motifs that are reoccurring throughout the films.
Bella?
Yeah, I was actually thinking symbolic too, because also mainly because through this film we had a lot of the interviews like line up with what we were like, what the viewers were watching.
Yeah.
So it was very like symbolic, and it like allows for like a deeper meaning of the location shots that we did.
Well, and I think that's one of the things about this film that's so interesting is the meaning of it, the sort of the meat on the bone, so to speak, kind of grows the further into it you get. The more you watch it, the more the meaning of it sort of develops over time, which is pretty cool. And I guess in that spirit, we should check it out. You guys ready? All right, so without further ado, ABC's Productions, Looking Back While Moving Forward.
What are 3 of my strongest qualities and times when I displayed them?
I think that 3 of your strongest qualities are that you are a generally compassionate person.
Your kindness, always good to others and willing to help.
Kindness and the willingness to include others. You see that in the way you deal with young kids or your peers and that, and it's a really good quality.
With determination, you switched schools. On the eve of the start of junior year, you took on an all-IB curriculum. You kept your studies on course. You pretty much independently worked the college prep process and application process and succeeded immensely with your acceptances.
When you put your mind to something, you follow through and are determined to make sure that you achieve your goals. A good example of that is your running and the dedication you had towards the running.
You're always passionate about everything that you do.
She's a leader at the dance studio. She led the blue team to a victory for tap. And she just leads by example. in dance and schoolwork and outside the classroom.
Also, you're a loving and caring person. You show affection to your family. You're very, very supportive of your grandparents. You help them. You always, let them know that you love them and you care about them.
You're able to pick up on people's quirks and make humor of it, but in a nice way, most of the time. Not always.
How creative you are. Since you were little, you have been really good at drawing. Now that you're older, you're not just drawing anymore, but you're also writing and editing videos. You are just really good at finding different ways to show your ideas, and you keep getting better at it.
You are fiercely loyal to friends, to family, to those you care about. You see all sides, and you're not rushed to take a popular side. You try to understand those who might be the underdog.
Do you have a memorable moment from my childhood?
You love dogs so much that one day you almost run into the street chasing one while I was chasing you and yelling your name. You were only 3 years old.
We were living in Ohio, and it was her very first dance recital. And you would have thought this kid hated dance, didn't want to go on stage, ran off the stage, and now look at her. It's like a huge part of her life, and it's something she'll always have. She made friendships, memories to last a lifetime.
Yes, teaching yourself how to ride a bike was very cute. You would go over to our neighbor's driveway. I don't know how you figured it out. And the driveway was on a pitch, so it kind of goes from higher to lower so that the water runs off of the driveway. So you somehow realized that if you went to the top of the driveway by the garage door, and then you kind of coasted down the driveway and started pedaling, that you could keep your momentum going. And it would be good because you would go for a while without like stopping or kind of like falling a little. And you kept doing that until you kept riding and riding and riding and didn't stop until you wanted to stop. I think also you teach yourself how to do things a lot in other ways, like boogie boarding. You definitely taught yourself how to do hair. Blows my mind.
I remember when you were probably about 5 years old, kindergarten age, you came back and explained that you put air in your tires, and when we asked you where, you rode your bike to Tire Town, which is like 5 blocks away. You were very independent then in trying to make sure you achieved your goals, and I see that now with things that you try to do.
What is a piece of advice you wish you had before leaving for college?
Make sure you look up who are the good and bad professors before selecting your classes.
The advice that I can give you is just to follow your dreams, listen to your heart, don't let no one tell you you are not good enough, and whatever you want to accomplish, just follow and don't listen to anyone.
Yes, I definitely, and I think I've told you this before, would not go so far away that I couldn't make it home for a weekend. The people that you tend to make friends with sometimes live in the surrounding areas, and then you won't be able to see them over the years and maintain your friendships. It is important to go to a school or a area where you have a lot of opportunities to do like internships and community service and make a lot of connections.
Definitely the piece of advice I wish I'd gotten was to study harder and watch my spending. That was a huge adjustment being on my own. Granted, it was back in the mid-90s, but definitely could have studied a lot more in college.
To not fear taking chances and to not have an imposter syndrome. I wish I was not inhibited in thinking I couldn't push myself with certain routes of curriculum, certain majors, studying abroad, and other experiences.
The importance of setting goals and identifying what you need to do in order to achieve those goals. College, you end up having a lot more downtime than you do in high school. You go to class for about 15 hours a week as opposed to 30 hours a week in high school, so there's a lot more downtime. And if you don't set goals and have specific steps you're going to do to achieve those goals, you can often find yourself wasting time and not achieving what you want to. So I would suggest that you think through what your long-term goals are and medium-term goals, and lay out a path for yourself on how you get there, and then focus on those to make sure that each week or each month you're making those milestones to meet those goals.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming again, everyone behind the table today, and thank you, as always, to our viewing audience at home. This has been another edition of the IB Film Show, and thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time, everybody.